63. Now, your host for Public Pulse, Floyd Whiting.
Good morning and welcome to Public Pulse. Now, this morning, I am joined by the Chief of the Sheridan Police Department, Travis Koltiska, and Captain Tom Ringley. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Floyd.
Morning, Floyd.
Now, August 30th, folks, just around the corner. It's the first day of school for School District Number 2. An exciting time for the county's kiddos. What does the Sheridan Police Department do to provide for school safety? We'll start off with just the big kind of umbrella question.
Well, the big umbrella answer is our school safety plan is twofold. First of all, we have Officer Ben Hawkins in the high school and Officer Rodney Sweeney in Sheridan Junior High School as our school resource officers. They're permanently assigned to those schools. However, they will branch out into the elementary schools if there's an investigation they need to follow up on there. The second part is all of our patrol officers make visits not only to the elementary schools, but also to Sheridan College. And the goal is to not only be seen, but it's also to interact with students and faculty, especially up to college.
Yeah.
And to help solve any problems or take advantage, help the students take advantage of any opportunities that may present them. We track the college and the elementary school visits. The guys have done a great job of getting up there. Our ultimate goal when we get up to full staff is to have a third school resource officer up at Sheridan College.
Oh, really?
We have the huge advantage to us is, that's the population of about 2,000 people probably. So that's bigger than some municipalities that have police departments.
Absolutely.
So it'd be like a little substation for us. We have people up there, and it's also going to be a place for officers to stop by and away from us, and a place they can go to get some reports done and interact. So we're pretty excited about that development. But obviously, school safety is always in the news, and it's one of our highest priorities.
Yeah. Before I go on to talking about the times that we live in, or asking a question about the times that we live in, bringing up Sheridan College, is the Sheridan PD ever asked to come in and talk to some students that might be studying, criminal law or anything up there?
Yeah, I've made several visits there over the years, teaching or at least providing case studies and stuff like that in respect to different types of investigations. So I've done it. I've participated. I know other members of the department in years past have participated in those sorts of things. So it's all about building that relationship. They have a great criminal justice program out here, and it's something that we have one of our corporals as a graduate of the program out there, John Snoozy, and we're always, hoping to develop that partnership even further and hopefully, identify some good candidates for our police department out of that Sheridan College. So yeah, we've done that multiple times.
What a unique insight and an advantage that those students have by, getting the story from either someone who was there or someone who's been in the trenches and understands policing.
Well, and anybody I don't care what line of work you're in. There's what's written in a book, and there's what happens when you go out and actually start doing the practice,
that's
right? And while the book prepares you for the knowledge you may need, there's some nuances that aren't always available in textbooks and in college studies. So it's a good opportunity for somebody who may be learning about, the Fourth Amendment in college. And actually, we're talking about search and seizure laws as they're applied and day-to-day practice. And that's really what helps prepare those students for their careers as they move on. It's another way to help prepare them for that.
Fantastic advantage that those kids have. Now, coming back to our other kiddos, our younger ones, it is a reflection of the time that we live in. I don't even know how to really put it.
School violence. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, there you go,
I don't want to sugarcoat it.
You're
And
right.
that's one thing we got to be careful not to do, because if we don't call it what it is and really identify it, then we're diminishing its impact.
Absolutely.
Yes, school violence is always on the forefront of our minds, and ensuring that we can provide resources within the community to do everything we can to protect our kids. It is unfortunate that this is something that we have to think about. This is unfortunate that it's something that parents have to think about. I have 2 children that are in school right now. It's something I think about day to day. And so it's we have a lot of officers that have children that have children going to school. So we take it really personal as well. And because of that, we prepare and we train to responding to that area. But I think first and foremost, and the value of the school resource officer program, and the value of the relationships that we're trying to build with the teachers, the staff, the administration, and the students, preventative measures are key. If we can find ways to develop these relationships and identify issues early on before they boil over and something tragic happens, that's the true goal of this program that we have. It's that ability to build those relationships, to share information, to have kids comfortable to come talk to a student, or have students comfortable to come talk to the officer, say, hey, I'm worried about so-and-so. They're making some strange comments. They're having a bad time. And we can build that relationship to be able to go up to that student and say, hey, what can we do to help you? And prevent an outburst.
A proactive approach
100%.
as opposed to a reactive.
That's the true value of it. That is one of the key points. Now, in a worst case scenario, and that's not identified early, having that officer on scene immediately. I mean, it's statistically proven in some of these case studies where there's been violence at schools, that the sooner the individual is contacted by law enforcement, the sooner the violence stops. That immediate contact is key. So having an officer on scene immediately to respond to, that's what's key to stopping if something violent does occur.
And Captain, how much training is involved for these officers when it comes to this situation?
A lot. I mean, one thing I always say, and I've said it, is a room entry is a room entry, whether we're doing it in a school or a government building or wherever, and we train heavily on that. The interesting thing to me, actually 2 points are interesting to me, is when we give it a name, Uvalde. A lot of there are 300 officers on scene there, approximately.
Yeah.
There's no way that report's done yet. Yet we have a lot of talking heads in the media making their commentary on what law enforcement did wrong there.
Yeah.
Well, if you look closely, they're usually selling something, whether it's clicks or a training. But the main interesting to me is I see in the media, a lot of departments publicizing what they're doing as a result of that, whether resources kept in schools or we've been doing some of that for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
It is one of our priorities, and we just didn't write a policy on it 10 years ago and stick to that. It's constantly evolving, as is our training. Our officers are trained in single officer response and a team response. And rest assured, if we have an incident in a school or an active killing event anywhere, the first officer on scene will respond without waiting for anyone else.
Absolutely.
And that's our philosophy, and that's kind of what everyone else is determined to be the best practice. But once again, we don't know what happened in Uvalde. There's an investigation going on. It takes us sometimes 2 months to investigate a complaint on a single officer. So just consider the source of the news, but we are here to tell our community that we train for this and we have our responses planned, and we work closely with our neighboring agencies in those responses as well.
And on that first day, are there patrols in the neighborhoods and near the schools during that morning drop-off that'll continue throughout the year as well?
Yeah, and we've always done that. The reason for that is A, to be the preventive measure, and B is to prevent, in regards to school violence.
Yeah.
And other is to keep the traffic slowing down so that the kids can cross the street and the buses can unload safe.
Yeah, we got to
safely.
remember that it's the first day of school is almost like the first snow of the season.
Oh, it's chaos.
Everybody forgets
Yeah.
how to drive, right? So you'll even see me in a uniform that day. So it's important. We get out there on the forefront of that first day and interact with those kids as they're coming back to school, welcoming them back. Yeah, it's exciting for most kids. Some not so much. May not be as exciting for them to return, but yeah, we're out there and ensuring that the traffic flow. It's a good opportunity for us to monitor traffic flow too and make suggestions on improvements as parents are dropping off students. What hiccups are there in the traffic design? We've encountered that at different elementaries, at the junior high, and made suggestions to the schools and the city on how to help vehicles get out of there smoother, so that it doesn't cause such congestion. So that's one reason. But again, that visibility, people see us, and we ensure that it doesn't just happen the first day of school. It's one of our expectations of our patrol is we know when schools start and when they end, and you make routine visits both in that school zone, in the bus loops, where parents are dropping off. It's important that in all the elementaries and the junior highs that we have officers in those areas during the school day.
And our school resource officers, I've spoken to both of them, and great guys. Now, when we're choosing who's going to do that extra duty, is there a certain type of individual that we're really looking for?
It's a competitive process that they have to pass an interview, and a few other things, and a performance review. And we main thing is we want someone that wants to do it. We're not going to assign me to a school or a young officer Ringley to a school. That's not my forte. I was good at other things, but actually Ben Hawkins stated in his initial hiring interview, a goal of his was to be a school resource officers. So they have a passion for the kids and the staff. Officer Swaney started doing some great work up at Milestone Youth Home in VOA long before he was a school resource officer. So they've demonstrated that passion to working with the children and helping them improve their lot in lives or maintain where they are.
Yeah.
We've got a vast majority of kids here in a great place, but we want to keep them in that good place as well. So the thing in common is their compassion for the kids.
Is the DARE program still being taught in schools?
The Sheriff's Department does the DARE program.
They take care
so
of that.
Yes,
Okay.
they do the DARE. Yeah, so I know Deputy Hill, and I'm not sure I think they had 2 instructors for a while. I'm sure the sheriff and undersheriff could expand on that further. But yes, they still do DARE through 5th grade.
I can remember his name was Trooper J.O. I can't even remember his first name, but he was our DARE officer. The Highway Patrol took care of all that stuff. And even to this day, I would be able to identify and point him out of a crowd. And I'll bet he'd be able to do the same. These relationships that are developed are lifelong, aren't they?
That's the absolute goal. And Captain Ringley talked about Ben's interview. He was directly influenced by our SRO at the time, since retired Doug Slack, and it was a big influence on Ben's decision to not only get in law enforcement, but saw the impacts that Doug had on his life and wanted to give back the same that Doug was able to give back to him, to those kids. So yeah, those relationships, they are lifelong. They are very important. You look at the turnout when Howie got ill, and when he was RSRO for a lot of years. You look at the turnout and for all his benefits to help him. He developed lifelong relationships with kids, parents, and faculty at those schools. That it's very important, and that builds that trust too. That's the whole point of that is being able to those individuals feel comfortable to come up and talk, feel comfortable to come up and report things, feel comfortable to say, I'm having a bad day and I thought about doing something, but I want to talk to you instead. That's the whole goal, build that relationship.
And that, wearing that uniform and interacting with those kids, you're a mentor, you're an inspiration, and essentially you are an example. The initial face that most of these children will have with your police department, your sheriff's department, or your troopers.
Yeah, and our guys have always done a good job, because what people need to remember is they're not school employees. They're not there to enforce school policy. They are police officers. And that part of their job is, what helps them do their job is the development of those relationships. But yeah, they're not there to be the bad guy or watch people in detention. They're there to use their training to spot people in need and to help them, or also they've got training in facility safety and security and invest all types of investigations.
Fantastic job, and one that, in my opinion, is absolutely vitally needed. When we return, we're going to continue with the Sheridan Police Department. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE, 103.9 FM, Sheridan.
At Eliason Financial, money management isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about dreams and opportunities, and more importantly, family. We'll take time to get to know you. Then we'll develop a unique wealth management plan that works hard, just like you. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Eliason Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
No, no, no! Crashing sucks. Do you trust your tires and brakes to protect you? Tires and brakes are crucial to the safety of your vehicle. Midas Tire and Auto can help. They'll inspect your vehicle and let you know what needs attention and what can wait. Plus, right now you could save $100 instantly on Cooper tires and $50 on brake service. Midas Tire and Auto, your first stop for brakes and tires on East Brundage Lane in Sheridan.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school and graduate debt-free. That education helped me get to the first day at my career, a job that I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from my service helped me buy my first home. And I take pride knowing I will be the first to respond if my community ever needs me. To learn more, visit nationalguard.com.
There's nothing like hearing the songs you love on local radio with no subscriptions and no monthly fees. But there's a new bill in Congress that could stop the music. If passed, this bill would tax your local radio station simply to play the music you love. Text LOCAL to 52886 and ask Congress to support local radio stations. Help us keep you connected to the music, local news, weather, and traffic that you need each day. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
The Sheridan Farmers Market is back for another great season on Grinnell Plaza with local produce, meat, eggs, coffee, baked goods, and outstanding locally handcrafted items. Every Thursday, 5 to 7 p.m., you can find the best our hardworking local producers have to offer. Special thanks to our season sponsor, First Federal Bank and Trust. See you Thursday on Grinnell Plaza at the Sheridan Farmers Market. And remember, please leave your pets at home.
Good morning and welcome back to Public Pulse, brought to you by our friends out there at Eliason Financial. I'm Floyd Whiting. August 30th is the first day of school for School District Number 2. And this morning I am joined by the Chief of the Sheridan Police Department, Travis Koltiska, and Captain Tom Ringley. The first day of school is a big deal. Parents take photos of their kids in front of the school signs. Kids are running everywhere, meeting up with friends they may not have seen over the summer season. To the majority of parents and kids, as the Chief said, this is a fun, busy day. To some, especially those starting school for the first time or beginning a new year at a new school, it can be a little scary. And it's great to know that the officers are going to be out there on day one. What are the officers going to be doing on day one? Chief, you said you're going to throw on the uniform and head out there.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll be out front of the school greeting the kids and the staff as they're coming back in. We'll be monitoring the traffic, the school zones. It's just kind of an overall, like the captain said, being very visible out there in front of the schools. Just reassuring everybody that, we're aware school's back in session and we're going to be there to prevent any problems we can and to respond to any issues that come up. Another big one is I'll get this plug in early because we talk about it every year, is school buses and passing school buses and making sure that we're watching out for that as well when buses are stopping to load or unload children, that people are following the commands on the bus, the stop signals to stop. And again, nowhere in Sheridan County do you not have to stop for a bus, regardless of what direction you're facing. So that's kind of the overview of it. Obviously that interaction, making sure that traffic's flowing well, but everybody's being responsible in their travels.
Chief, I love how you brought it up, as the first snow of the year. We all kind of forget how to drive a little bit. We got to remember, and when it comes to the first day of school, there's a little bit of chaos. It's probably more like the first week, maybe week and a half of school. We're trying to get our routine down this year.
Well, and again, you may have to stop for a bus a couple times, so it may take you a couple extra minutes. And the captain said it multiple times on here. Leave 5 minutes early the first day of school for work. You'll get to work on time.
Absolutely.
At the same time, just pre-plan a little bit. Everybody be aware that there's going to be buses stopping, so you may have to stop. It's going to take you just a little bit longer to get to work. Pre-plan.
That stop sign means stop. And as Captain said, in both directions. Now, what are other officers going to be doing within the city itself? Probably keeping an eye out for kids, watching around the parks after school, things like that. Because, after school, the kids are going to take to the streets, head to parks, jump on the bikes.
It's got its own rhythm. Say, for instance, up on Midland, you've got football practice and games and traffic going on. So our data tells us that we need to get up there and monitor traffic. We're always on the lookout for kids walking, making sure they're not being followed. There's the main drags, the main traffic artery, so to speak, to where we sometimes get calls on that. Thankfully, they're almost always innocent, but we are glad people are calling. But yeah, you're right. The Kendrick Park, people cut through to get home. So we're not necessarily in there, but we're on Laux and all the approaches. And on top of that, we still have all the rest of our law enforcement duties to fulfill as well with limited people. We have our high traffic areas. We have our high crash areas that we're monitoring and having a presence in to deter accidents there. So while you may not see us sitting in an area, we probably on an approach to that area so people see us before they get there and slow down or start acting safe.
That data-driven policing is, honestly, I don't know any better way to police an environment. And with all the technology that we have in this day and age, the data that you can look at, Chief, what an advantage.
Yeah, there's so many tools now that it's all automated. I mean, using data to drive your resources is nothing that's just popped up within recent years. Way back, they used to use the old pin maps, and literally it would look at a report, but it was all, you had to look through everything by hand and put a little pin on a map saying this is where this occurred, or this is where we had a string of burglaries or whatever, a string of robberies. Now it's pretty much all automated. So it's made things much more efficient in getting that data and driving those resources. Lot more automation, a lot of ability to create quicker visuals. A lot of people are visual learners. So if I hand out a map to the patrol division saying, look at this map, here's where our traffic crashes have increased, this is where we need to focus some efforts, they can see it.
Yeah.
Not just hear me say, you need to go in this area. It provides those benefits.
Now, a couple things before I let you go. First one, speaking of technology, has Lieutenant James Hill received a lot of cooperation from residents in Sheridan in regard to the surveillance camera requests that we've put out there?
I don't have any exact numbers. I'm not sure if you do.
They're starting to trickle in. And actually, thanks to the feedback from a member of the community about a GIS program, essentially, that can help with that. We have had the first person sign up for that. So that's a work in progress, but we're hoping that snowballs. It'd be much more efficient than our spreadsheet. So we're grateful to the person who made that suggestion.
And if you've got a camera out there that has the possibility of catching a crime, go ahead, call down to the department, speak with Lieutenant Hill. He'll get your name on there, and you can help solve a crime. One more thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you just swore in a new officer.
We did, who we're extremely excited about. Her name is Officer Amanda Fisher, who has been a communications officer for us for about the past year, but she has extensive law enforcement experience both in the military and also at the Gillette Police Department, where she had extremely strong performance reviews. But you can't blame her for wanting to come get some fresh air.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're very excited by all of her new hires, but Amanda has, she took the world by storm as a dispatcher, and now she's going to do the same as a police officer. She is this in her first week of her 14-week field training program. She will not need to go to the academy for any follow-up training. She still has her police officer certification.
Oh, wow. She's ready to hit the ground running.
Just like with all the Alex Murrays and the Jack Stanleys and every single other person we've hired. We just hired Julie Hyde as our third records technician.
Comes with a lot of experience in records and as a police officer. So, we've been very fortunate to find some great people in recent years that are really bringing a lot to the table for the police department. Very fortunate. We just need more.
Yeah, we're at full strength in dispatch and in records, but we do have 4 vacancies. For patrol officers, we're extremely selective who we hire.
Yeah.
the people we have now are more than capable of handling our workload and anything that comes up. But like I said, one more, and we can fulfill that. We want to add a third detective. We're going to have a third school resource officer up at the college. So this is really going to allow us to expand our efforts and start meeting some bigger goals.
And there you go, folks. If you feel that this is what you would like to do, head on down to the police department.
Yeah, do a ride along. Give
Yeah.
us a call to see what it's all about. It's extremely fulfilling. The streets aren't paved with gold as a police officer, but if you want self-fulfillment and if you want to contribute to the greater good, then it's definitely a path worth checking out.
And a true service to the community. A true service. Chief, Captain, thank you both for coming in and talking with us this morning. Greatly appreciate everything that you guys do.
Thanks, Floyd.
Please be safe out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, when we return, we're going to speak with the Buffalo Police Department. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
At Eliason Financial, money management isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about dreams and opportunities, and more importantly, family. We'll take time to get to know you. Then we'll develop a unique wealth management plan that works hard, just like you. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Eliason Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
Staying on top of your tax and accounting records doesn't have to be a struggle. I'm Patrick Suker. Harker Mellinger has been providing professional solutions and outstanding value for over 30 years. Whether you're interested in QuickBooks consulting, monthly accounting, payroll preparation, or tax preparation, Harker Mellinger is the solution for your tax and accounting needs. Call us today. Your initial consultation is always free at Harker Mellinger, 1811 South Sheridan Avenue in Sheridan.
Sheridan Orthopedic Associates continues its over 50-year tradition of surgical excellence in Northeast Wyoming and Southern Montana with the addition of Dr. Jory Wasserberger, a Wyoming native, and fellowship trained at the Mayo Clinic in Orthopedic Sports Medicine. Dr. Wasserberger joins a team of highly rated surgeons providing spine, sports, hand, hip, knee, and shoulder surgery, joint replacement, and more, including emergency care 24/7, 365 days a year. Visit us at SheridanOrtho.com to learn more.
The owners and staff at Kane's Funeral Home would like to thank the families of Sheridan and Johnson counties for choosing Kane's and allowing them to serve you during these hard times. Kane Funeral Home makes it their mission to take the stress and uncertainty out of ceremonial services. They own and operate the only crematory in Sheridan County, so your loved one is always in their care. Kane's Funeral Home. Call 673-5837 or visit them online at canefuneral.com.
Now's the time to start those projects you've been dreaming about. Excavation, landscaping, or home improvement. Wagner Ranch Services has the materials. Wagner Ranch Services carries many types of gravel, scoria, topsoil, and landscaping products. Check out Wagner's landscaping display, where you can view a variety of landscaping materials that can be picked up from the yard or delivered. Wagner Ranch Services, 13 Industrial Lane, 307-752-2787. Open Monday through Friday from 7 to 5.
I'm here with Candace Crane from Sheridan Honda.
Tommy, hi. What do you think of the brand new HRV that I drove here today?
It looks great, but is it Honda, really?
Yeah, they redesigned it for 2023, and it's definitely not Grandma's Honda.
Well, Grandma gets great gas mileage. I hope the redesign didn't affect that.
Not at all. The HRV is equipped with all-wheel drive and still gets 26 miles per gallon. Plus, it now has a longer wheelbase, wider stance, and improved powertrain, and it's just as affordable.
Impressive. I'm going to have to take the new Honda HRV for a test drive, and so can you. See the redesigned Honda HRV at Sheridan Honda.
Good morning and welcome back to Public Pulse, brought to you by our friends out there at Eliason Financial. I'm Floyd Whiting. Johnson County School District Number 1 will begin their academic year in less than a week. The first day of school is August 23rd. And joining me to talk about this and other law enforcement issues over in Buffalo is the Chief of the Buffalo Police Department, Sean Bissett. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Floyd. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, sir. How are you? I know you were laid up for a little bit. Are you healing all right?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. I'm actually headed back to Colorado tomorrow for my 6-week follow-up, so it's slow going, but it's coming. It's coming.
That's good to hear, Chief. That's good to hear. You got a busy week next week, don't you?
Yes, we do. We've actually, Fair and Rodeo just wrapped up, and our parade. We just had a great week with some dances in town, and going up to the fairgrounds and watching these young men and women work so hard to show their animals. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, our parade went fantastic, and we have Longmire Days coming up starting tomorrow.
Absolutely, just from one event to the other over in Johnson County. And, of course, next Tuesday, what kind of presents can parents expect from the Buffalo Police Department on the first day of school?
Yeah, so first day of school, next Tuesday. We've already planned for, I kind of caught the last part of Chief Kiltiska, and same thing, it's going to be a high visibility. We're going to have officers stationed at every school. We're going to just continue the initiative that we actually, when I came on in January, that we're going to continue with. Arrival at school, dismissal. We've always had officers in the area. This year, in the beginning, I would like us to have officers stationed. Sheriff Odenbaugh has already told me he's going to be helping me out. So it's not going to be just us, but Johnson County Sheriff's Office is going to be helping me out as well. So just a high presence. I've always wanted, one of my things was our day work officers. If you got some time, let's stop in the schools, let's be present, let's walk through the schools, because Floyd, there's nothing better than walking into a school and having kids run up to you and they're excited to see you. Too many times parents or even teachers or students see an officer in a school and the first thing they say is, "Oh, why are the police here?" instead of, "Great, the police are here."
Yeah.
I kind of want to change that so that it's a positive, it's not always a negative. Something doesn't have to be wrong to see an officer in a school. So that's one of my initiatives.
Sir, does school district number 1 have school resource officers?
So no, we don't at this time. But we have met. We've kind of a school security committee, if you will. It's myself, Sheriff Odenbaugh, the Sheriff's Department, the County Attorney's Office, Charles Oskey, the Superintendent, Mental Health, the school board, every principal. We have come to the table twice now and are just coming up with some new ideas and some transparency, Floyd. Obviously, active shooter is always on everybody's mind, right? We have trained in TAC 1, they trained the staff, they trained the students. We had a Saturday where ourselves, Sheriff's Office, and even Fish and Game, we just spent a day doing simulations and training for active shooter. But it's a little bit more broad than that. It's to the point where we have DCI coming in. Sheriff Odenbaugh and myself spoke with DCI. They're going to come in and actually do a training for staff in the schools, just the recognition of drugs. Obviously, with this fentanyl crisis that we have throughout our nation, and it's seeping into our community, we want our teachers to be aware of what to look for. They need to be safe. Our kids need to be safe. They need to know what they're looking for. We have now, information that they are pressing fentanyl into pills that look like Skittles and Sweet Tarts, even to taste that way. So I look at that as who are they targeting? They're not targeting an older generation. They're targeting our youth. And if kids don't know better, there's just some horrible consequences. So we have discussed that. They're talking about maybe some ARPA money and doing something of a hybrid SRO. I know that probably sounds crazy, but that basically would be if I have officers that are off and want to work overtime, whether it's a sporting event or if it's a week where I can get officers in the school to spend more time in the school, and that funding will help us fund trying to get at least, for now, I know it's a Band-Aid, my ultimate goal was to be funded for a full-time SRO. That's my ultimate goal. I would love to have it. I think it's important. But we, have discussed that option of how can we get more officers in the school? How do we get these kids feeling comfortable to come to us and to create, we all know that our kids know more about what's going on in the community than we do, right? Especially the high school kids. So if we can make that connection with them and they can feel comfortable come to us and say, "Hey, I heard this or I saw this," I think that's a great start.
Absolutely, and vital to have that trust that these kids can walk up to an officer and be able to tell them, "Hey, I kind of heard on the grapevine that XYZ may be taking place."
Absolutely.
Now, this drug, this fentanyl, we've seen it in the news for a couple of years now. Unfortunately, it is in the neighborhoods. It's around here a little bit. Are you seeing a massive increase in fentanyl activity, sir, or? moderate?
Obviously, I came from Baltimore, so fentanyl had been around for a long time, and it was very, very prevalent. When I got here, we ended up getting some donation through Wyoming Northern Mental Health, and we are all equipped with Narcan now, so it blocks the effects of the opiates and the fentanyl. And unfortunately, Floyd, the first time we got it, about 5 days later, I used it on a 14-year-old. And then we've had 3 other instances where Narcan's been used, and Officer McCarter had a save. He showed up. The gentleman was not breathing, was basically gone. He hit him with Narcan, and within 30 seconds, he was sitting up talking. So, unfortunately, I would say for a small community, I don't see it we don't see it every day. But now we respond to calls differently. Our medics respond differently. If we know that anybody is a possible overdose, we are thinking immediately fentanyl. Because a lot of drugs that are coming out, people think it is not fentanyl, but it's either laced or is. If it's not heroin, it's fentanyl. So we treat that, and almost every call where there's drugs involved, whether it's a search of a car, we have Narcan in our evidence room in case there's an exposure here at the station. So, yeah, it is a concern for sure.
Chief, call me naive. I always kind of believed that those were big city drugs, not drugs that we would see in our smaller communities. But being from Baltimore, sir, and the time that you served over there as an officer, having that experience and being able to utilize that while you're here in Buffalo, that I would say that is absolutely vital, sir. Is there anything about fentanyl that you can help maybe tell some parents? What can we look out for?
So basically, we have hopefully coming here at the end of September, we're going to be doing a freshman impact kind of program. And we're, again, DCI is coming in for a training. So I would say it's just anything where a white powder, a pill, anything that doesn't look normal or is pressed or just if they're not breathing, obviously you call 911 right away. But a lot of times we're beating the medics there, and all our officers are trained now, Floyd. They know what to look for. They know the signs. They know the symptoms. In our AEDs, which is our automatic defibrillators, is where our Narcan is kept. So it's on us all the time. So we had discussed with the schools, maybe it's something that teachers are trained in or that they have at the school that they're able to administer. It's a nasal administration, so it's very easy to learn. There's no side effects. If somebody's overdosing and it's not fentanyl or an opiate and you give them Narcan, there's no side effects, So we've been doing a lot of training in that. We look at what's coming through, and then part of the problem is, Floyd, is we're wedged between these two major interstates, and so a lot of this stuff is coming through. Sometimes kids are naive; they're thinking, okay, well, this is just marijuana, and they don't know what it's laced with. And the marijuana these days is not the marijuana of 20 years ago, right? So when we had a THC level of 9 or 10%, we're looking at 99, 98% pure. So even those effects. So it's just, I would just tell parents, just, keep an eye on their kids and talk to the kids. And we tried to explain to them how serious, and it doesn't take a lot of fentanyl, Floyd, for somebody like us, anybody that is, we're talking like a pin size amount can really do a lot of damage.
That's incredible. Horribly, horribly incredible. Now, Chief, Buffalo was also experiencing some burglaries of unlocked vehicles earlier this summer. I know there's probably very little that we can talk about. How is the investigation moving along?
It's doing well. We're still, without really getting into a whole lot, we still have somebody that we are currently looking for. We still have one that is not in custody yet, but we've gotten all the property that was taken, most of it returned back to the victims, which is huge. And like we talked about before, I mean, we recovered 6 handguns, and we were able to get 4 of those guns returned to their rightful owners. And that doesn't happen often, so that just that says a lot about the men and women who are working here and what they're doing and their dedication to the job, Floyd, because if you look at some of these numbers, again, Chief Kiltiska hit it with being full. We're looking nationwide at basically people leaving law enforcement that are not eligible for a pension. It's up 42% from the year prior. So imagine that you have a lot of experienced 5, 10-year, 15-year officers that are leaving the job because of what's going on. We're blessed here. We are full in dispatch. We are full in patrol, and they are really policing at a very high level. And we're continuing our training, and we're in a good spot, and we're lucky. And I think a lot of that has to do with our community, Floyd, with the amount of support that we have.
Which is absolutely vital. I've spoken with the SPD quite a bit about that. I know community support for the police office and the sheriff's office over there in Johnson County is pretty high, and I feel that is absolutely vital. How do you like to build these relationships, sir?
I think a lot of it has to do with just getting out and talking to people, putting boots on the ground. I do a lot of stuff off duty. I have 2 girls, I think we can all agree that when we talk about school and school safety, that after Uvalde and everything that we've seen nationwide, that day after, it's hard to put your kids on that bus. It's hard to drop your kids off at school. And so for me, I make sure that the nice thing about being in a small community is you get to know everybody. I've done a lot of things, volunteered, whether it's coaching soccer or coaching basketball, and I have made so many amazing friends and got to know these kids. And boy, there's nothing better than when you walk into a school in uniform and kids are coming up and giving you high fives, and you're out in the soccer field playing soccer with them at lunchtime and recess. I think that's how you do it. I think sometimes people forget that we're human too, and that there's nothing better when you're driving in a parade and people are waving and saluting and have their hand over their hearts. I mean, it's overwhelming sometimes, and so I think we see the worst. We see the 1%, the hardest things that we have to deal with, and it's not always criminal. I mean, death notifications, accidents. So when you can really sit down and shake someone's hand and know that you're appreciated, and it's huge.
And I'm glad you brought that up, sir. That it's not always a criminal action that needs to be acted upon. There's a lot that the police do for the community, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that sometimes I think everyone needs to take a step back and realize that there is a heart behind that shield.
Correct.
And that heart is just as invested in this community. You are community members.
Absolutely.
Now, Longmire Days, sir, speaking of the community, is just around the corner. You and I spoke on this a bit last month. This tends to be a pretty docile crowd, correct? I mean, they're not a very rowdy people.
No. Well, the good thing is it's about law enforcement, so most folks that show up love the police, so that's a good thing. But yeah, it usually there's, a knock on wood. I mean, we don't have problems. People come, they love the town, they love the books, they love the show. Robert Taylor will be in town tomorrow. We just have one of the actors here this year. But, we have a dance scheduled for Saturday night, which is usually a pretty big event. And, I've met with the planners, and I mean, they've done this enough that they got this thing locked down pretty good. So I'm looking forward to it. I think the community is looking forward to it. It'll be a good time.
Now, do you generally put more officers on for Longmire Days, or has that generally not been required?
They usually do, Floyd. I think in its heyday, before COVID and when you'd have pretty much the whole cast here, we did. This year, we're looking at some of the events, and we do have some extra officers coming in for the dance. There's a fun run Friday morning, and we'll make sure that we have street closures and. If they're in the park or at Bomber Mountain, we do, and we'll do, even the officers that are on duty, we'll be doing routine checks. And, the organizers have all our phone numbers. I have a contingency plan. If I need more officers, everybody knows that, hey, I may call you at a moment's notice and just might need you to come in. But, for certain events, we have extra officers on board, and we have some street closures set. So, we're going to try to do most of it with what we have, but some of the bigger events, we will have extra officers on duty. And again, I can't say it enough, Lloyd, the sheriff's office has been instrumental in us working together, and it's almost like one police department the way this is working. So he's offered his services and said, hey, I've got some extra deputies on duty. If you need us, call us.
Those partnerships between law enforcement, absolutely vital. And Buffalo is kind of tucked between 2 major interstates.
Yes, sir.
How closely do you work with the Highway Patrol in regards to possible drug running issues?
We work very close, actually. I talk with one or two of them, and probably once or twice a week. We share information. They're kind of, some of those guys are running from, up above at the Montana line all the way down to, Gillette or KC, whatever it may be. So they're spread thin. And Floyd, if there's a call that comes out, or an officer or a trooper is on a stop on the interstate and we're close and he's by himself, we're backing him up. I mean, we're not going to leave anybody out there by themselves. And that goes the same for the sheriff's department. We all work together. So we know that there are a lot of times they're by themselves. So, we scan, and if a call comes through dispatch, she'll let us know, and we will back them up.
That's fantastic to hear, because, it seems like it could possibly be a little lonely out there on that road.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they do cover so much ground. Now, sir, I had a question for you. It's kind of a community policing idea. What is the citation that you tend to see most in Buffalo, Chief?
I would say it's funny that you ask. We've had some complaints of speed coming down the mountain, a couple of roads, so we've kind of run some details. As a matter of fact, the last 3 weeks, our officers have made 116 stops for different traffic violations. Not all tickets, obviously. Our officers have a lot of discretion, but I would say in our town, especially now with the tourism, not everybody understands that, hey, you're coming down the mountain at 60, it turns to 30. So our officers are well aware of that. You're coming out of Yellowstone, but I would say most of our infractions are traffic related with speed.
And is citation tickets really the best way to deal with that? Because like you said, most of them are tourists. They're probably just using the highway to drive through.
Yeah, no, Floyd, when I say give my officers discretion, there's not anybody there that I tell them you have to do this, you have to do that. They make their own determination when they make that stop. But I think when you talk about community policing, we've talked about this before, making that good contact with somebody on the road, sometimes it's just, there's nothing. I still get nervous when a cop gets behind me, Floyd, and I've been in it forever. And I got both hands on the wheel. I'm looking in the rearview mirror. I'm checking my speed. So, look, we're all human. There's nobody here. I really stress to my officers, don't be robots. Just talk to people, And a lot of times, when you do it, when you make stops, and you have great conversations. How was your trip? And so, a lot of those, when I say there's 116 stops, I don't know, maybe a quarter of those might end up in a citation depending on, what's going on, or if there's something in their driving history that requires a citation. But a lot of times those are warnings, Floyd, So I don't want people going out and just hammering away on tickets. That's not what we're about. It's about just keeping the community safe, being aware. Also, Floyd, you never know. You're making that traffic stop. You have the lights on, and you don't know somebody driving down that road might have bad intentions. Sees an officer with their lights on, that's a deterrent. Same thing with our schools. When they see officers driving around the schools, if somebody's having a bad day and they see 3 cops around a school, they're not stopping.
Chief, I want to thank you so much for calling in today, and thank you and your team for everything that you guys do out there.
Well, I appreciate that, Floyd. It's always a pleasure.
Stay safe. You've been listening to Public Pulse on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
At Stiefel, our focus is on you.